So I think there are a set of trade-offs, and the tools that we have now, ecosystem service valuation tools, and this is a slide from a study by Crow-White who calculated benefits in millions of dollars to multiple sectors from marine spatial planning, including conservation. And you can find areas there where everyone benefits. So why wouldn't we want to be there? And it turns out that we're probably not on the efficiency frontier, but we could get there through these planning processes. In my mind, this is the vision that we have to have. This is what we have to bring to the public. This is what we have to bring to decision makers. And at the end of the day, if we can find these and we can move the processes in this way, I think we can shift that trajectory. And 20 years from now, we can find ourselves with resilient and productive marine ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we have a question? Yes.
And this is actually was a slide from Dr. Eller's work. You said that the United States was a plan that was being implemented at some sub-regional levels. Can you expand upon that? Like which ones are you talking about?
Well, so implementation I'm using loosely, right?
Okay.
We're moving towards regional planning bodies, and I think we're making progress. I take as positive progress, Sandra, the fact that there was money in the supplemental for the Hurricane Sandy, even though we lost it in the end. That my understanding is that the pass back to NOAA is going to have some money in it for marine spatial planning. So we're moving forward. Are we getting implementation? No, because I think we haven't made the case to the politicians who are pushing back on this, and they're acting against their own self-interest, right? They're going to squander the value in their coastal zones by not creating marine spatial plans. And what we have to do is get the business community along with the environmental community to go to those leaders and say we actually want marine spatial plans. Now we may have to use different language. In Alaska, for example, Senators Murkowski and Begich have been opposing marine spatial planning pretty vocally. They recently went to the Department of Interior and essentially have asked the Department of Interior to produce a marine spatial plan for the Alaskan Arctic. They don't want any of those words used in producing that plan. So let's get the principles right, not argue about the language.
Yeah, one more question.
Hi, Patrick Christie from the University of Washington. Thank you, Barry. It was really interesting presentation. One of your themes in your talk was about participatory processes and the importance of those. And I guess the question that I have for you is, when participatory processes come into play, they can have many benefits. For example, people from developing countries or indigenous people have more of a stake or more of a place at the table, if you will. But of course, those processes can be messy. They can challenge current, I think you said technocracies or current, institutions, scientific institutions, where they're at AAAS, for example. So I'm curious what you feel are some of the levers by which participatory processes can have a greater meaningful stay in complementing scientific knowledge. And I think you, being at Moore, can influence that, of course, and it's important that people like you are saying that. And I'm just curious if you see that as an easy path forward, or you see it as a very challenging path forward, and towards more participatory processes, and what can people like you or others do to make it more smooth?
So it's a very challenging path. It's a very messy path, and I think we're engaging in it in a couple of places right now. We've probably run the mother of all participatory processes, or supported the mother of all participatory processes in the Marine Life Protection Act initiative. We included all sorts of stakeholders. That process was run in a way where the scientists articulated a set of principles, and then we gave the stakeholders the data. We gave them all the access to the data. We allowed them to bring new data to the table. But it was time-bounded, and they had to produce their own alternatives within a certain time frame, and they got support to do that those alternatives then were considered against a set of scientific principles, and the only ones that went forward were those that measured